Good afternoon, this is Captain Andrew, your voice of Jersey Cape Fishing, here this afternoon with your Marine and Fishing Report, brought to you today by Offshore Eddies Marine-Grade Polymer Products and Fabrication. First, from the Sailor's Delight in Wildwood, we have a weather window coming up for the next 3 or 4 days. The Sailor's Delight out of Wildwood is running tog trips on Tuesday the 1st and Wednesday the 2nd. The trip has a maximum of 8 people per trip, and the first boat leaves at 7:30 a.m. The cost is $50 per person, and it includes rod and bait. They will also have swimming shad for anyone who wants to pitch the rocks for striped bass. Next, the Side Chick Sport Fishing in Cape May. They got in on the striper bite, and it produced big time. The fish were too big to keep, as is almost commonplace for stripers these days. They landed fish from 44 to 49 inches. And finally, I'm going to mention White Perch without spot burning. Now, with that said, if you have a great White Perch honey hole, you might want to get out there, get some mudworms, and put some meat in the freezer. The fish seem to have picked up their bite in the last week or so. Now let me take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Offshore Eddies Marine-Grade Polymer Products and Fabrication. Now, Offshore Eddie is a true waterman. I've known him for over 30 years. He taught me fishing as a trade, as a mate, and I use his products on all my boats. I have rod racks, rod holders, cutting tables, heads, measuring devices, cup holders, all made of the highest quality materials and all made by hand. You don't get anything off a CNC machine here. Now, if you want custom Offshore Eddies marine-grade polymer products for yourself, call that damn pirate up at 609-972-5175. Well, folks, buckle in. This is going to be an interesting segment of Fish Stories. I get asked the same question a lot. I've probably been asked this question nearly 1,000 times over the last 30 some odd years I've been working on the ocean. I'm 39 going on 40 now. I started working in the party boat industry as a bait boy when I was around 11. And through the years, eventually when I became a merchant marine officer, the experiences kept spreading. So over the years, somebody always inevitably asked me this question. And it's something that I always have as a matter of personal pride. I always get asked, Captain Andrew, do you get seasick? And the short answer is absolutely not. I've never been seasick before in my life. But the long, convoluted answer is yes, I have puked on a fishing boat once. So let me get into it. Now, everybody knows I own my own fishing boats. I work as a merchant marine. I've been all over the world in my career. I've been to over 44 countries. I think I lost count. I think I'm around 44 or 45. I have sailed on the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, quite a few times actually. I've been through the Mediterranean, the Black, the Baltic, the Bering, Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, you name it, with the exception of the waters around Australia and Antarctica. There isn't a body of water I haven't sailed on. So, with that said, I started out young, so I've had a lot of exposure to the water early on, and by the time I was a teenager and really starting to see terrible conditions, I was already an old salt at that point. The first time I crossed the Atlantic was when I was 19, when I was, a cadet at the State University of New York Maritime Academy. And we saw some pretty brutal weather on the crossing, 20 foot, 25 foot seas, but, on a 500 foot long ship, it can take it. Later, I would see 35 foot seas on the same ship up in the Baltic Sea. And it just kept building from there. Eventually, I would go on to work in the Bering Sea, and I would see 25, 30 foot seas on not a regular basis, but often enough. Nasty weather. Eventually, the worst I would see would be on a Bering Sea crossing, an Indian Ocean crossing. And that happened south of Madagascar, coming from Singapore to Cape Town, South Africa. And there's a little bit of a story there. I was working noon to midnight. I was the mate, and my father was in failing health, and I had known he was going to pass. I was basically waiting for the phone call. At around 3 o'clock that morning, the next morning, after I had gotten off shift, I had gotten the phone call that he had passed. And I did my morning, and then I went to sleep. Now, when I went to sleep, it was absolutely ridiculously flat calm. I got woken up around 10 o'clock by being thrown out of my bed. We had basically typhoon conditions outside. It was 50, 60 mile per hour winds with 35 to 45 foot seas. This weather basically had come out of nowhere, and to this day I honestly believe it was my old man saying goodbye, or at least messing with me. I tell you what, there was white caps in the coffee cups that day, Jesus. But I had even done a winter working in the North Sea, and I tell you what, that was pretty rough. 35 day stretch of weather, and you got about 6 days worth of work done. But it all comes to this story. Now, this story happened out of Wildwood. At this point, I had already crossed the ocean a few times. I was not quite a mate, still in training, with the unlimited tonnage as a merchant marine, but I was still going out on the party boats. And this one was an 18-hour offshore trip. It was going to be 18 hours out for sea bass in really deep water. And it was myself, my brother Alan, my cousin Matthew, and my best friend Tommy. And I like to consider myself quite stout. It was a little snotty going out. The boat we were going on was pretty beefy, but it was probably, I would say, 10 to 12 foot seas, but they were forecast to come down. And over the course of the trip, they did. But let's just say my cousin Matthew's not the most stout of people when it comes to working out on the ocean. He used to work as a mate. He helped us out in an emergency, but he would puke and then get back to work sort of person. So the boat left the dock at 2 o'clock in the morning, so obviously everybody took the opportunity to take a nap. And I don't quite know what time it was, but I was laying there and I was having a dream, and I was laying on the deck, and I woke up, and you know that stage where you're not quite sure if you're still in a dream or if you're awake? Well, that's where I was at. And I was in this weird little dream state, and I was looking at a plastic grocery bag. And I didn't think nothing of it. Plastic grocery bag is what it is. Kind of a weird thing to dream about. I've had better dreams in my life, I'll attest to that. But I'm laying there in this weird state, looking at a grocery bag, and the grocery bag starts moving. Getting weirder, kind of a weird dream, and all of a sudden the plastic bag starts filling up over my face as I'm laying there. And then I realize, well, I can smell something. And you're not supposed to smell things in your dreams, or at least I don't know that I've ever smelled anything in my dreams. And then I realize I'm no longer dreaming. I'm laying on the galley floor of this boat underneath a bench, and my cousin Matthew is leaning over me, vomiting into a plastic grocery bag right over my face. So now that's the first time I've ever gotten sick on a boat. And needless to say, I went outside and I don't remember. I think I pulled the trigger to get it done and over with, or it happened naturally. I don't know. I just know that for the first time in my life, I was on a boat and I really needed to go. So, Matt, I'm glad I shared this to the world. I know you're probably terribly embarrassed. I don't care. You ruined my 30-year record. And for those who are curious, I'm sure as I'm recording this video, I've put up a few photos of him. But, yep, folks, there's the long, convoluted, heavily defended answer of how I Captain Andrew have gotten sick on a boat before. Now that is all I have for you today. Tune in Monday morning at 8:35 a.m. And if you would like to sponsor this fine broadcast, please email me at sailor08251@gmail.com. Have a great day, tight lines, and let's go Eagles.